SRAM has a new Force AXS group set and I've got it off the bike so that we can take a look at the real weights, compare them to the main rival Ultegra Di2, and we'll take a closer look at some of the key changes. Before I break the scales out though, let me give you a little overview of one of the most popular group sets on the market. SRAM's Force AXS is the American brand's second tier offering, sitting under the top-end red group set. As a result, you get quite a bit of trickle-down tech here that we find on the current red group set. I'll cover those things as we go through the components, but it is worth noting that the prices on this group set remain the same as the outgoing stuff. Given that prices everywhere have been increasing, that is really nice to see. Also remaining the same are the basics of the group set. This is an electronic and disc brake only group set. You shift the same, with your right hand making it harder and your left hand making things easier. Use them at the same time and the front derailleur changes. Simple. Right, on with the components, and seeing as we're talking about shifting, let's talk shifters. Now, if you're looking at these shifters and thinking that you're seeing the same design as SRAM's Rival, then you're not going mad. SRAM has taken the hood shape straight from Rival, but look closely and you'll see a different lever shape. This one is carbon and has a thinner profile up here. There's also a slightly redesigned paddle, with the tail end being chopped off for a bit of extra knuckle clearance when braking. Now, we really liked the smaller hood shape when Rival was introduced, so it is great to see it here. This does, however, mean that a few functions have gone. The auxiliary port where you'd once plugged in your blips are no more. In place, SRAM now allows you to connect up to 6 of its AXS wireless shifters. Likewise, SRAM has ditched the pad contact point adjustment, leaving you with only reach adjustment. That's the tech, but what about the weight now? If I turn my scales on, these come in at 234 grams for the right shifter, and a pair is 468 grams. Well, Ultegra shifters weighed 385 grams, so these are a fair bit heavier. All right, with the rear derailleur, there's nothing much new. You get a sparkly new design and a new logo, but that is pretty much about it. There's still a 1x specific option for the 10 to 44 Explore cassette and 10 to 36 tooth option. This standard 2x model will work with cassettes from 28 tooth to 36 tooth. Now, I am a little disappointed with this lack of innovation. SRAM has had years to create this new design. The shifting could have been made faster or the derailleur made lighter. Oh well, it was a good unit anyway, and it weighs 328 grams. The Ultegra rear derailleur that we weighed came in at 261 grams, so a fair bit lighter for that. Now, where SRAM has been making moves is with the front derailleur. There is a new cage design here, and I can tell you that it shifts really well from the small ring to the big ring. It is absolutely brilliant. Let's take a closer look at the cage redesign. The inner cage has seen some little changes. You can see that the bolt now sits in here, whereas it was out here on the old model. There's also a slightly redesigned lower half of the inner cage just there. They seem like minor changes, but they do make a big difference. Anyway, it weighs on scales of truth with a battery 182 grams. Now, it is worth pointing out that both of SRAM's derailleurs contain their own batteries, whereas Shimano, the battery is external. So these are always going to weigh a little bit more because of that. Onto the chainset, and we have some major changes. Before I cover those, I want to take a moment to talk through the plethora of options available. The 2x chainset comes in this standard road model and gets a new 50-37 tooth option, which was previously reserved for the red level group set. You've still got a wide 2x option with 40-33 tooth chainrings for gravel bikes, and both of those come in power meter and non-power options. Then we get into the 1x specific chainsets. Again, you've got a standard model with a wide option, and both available as power and non-power options. That's a lot of bikes that are going to be covered by SRAM Force, so this will likely be one of the most commonly seen group sets on the market. The big change comes at the chainrings. On the 2x model, you get the integrated design from the top-end red group set. It's good to see the Force group set getting some trickle-down tech, and the new rings, in my eyes at least, are a visual highlight of the new group set. That said, we're not totally sold on this design, and if you want to know why, then make sure you check out my first ride review video. Now, the whole package design is supposedly lighter than the outgoing model, so let's see if that's true. This one with the 4835 tooth chainrings and a power meter, let's turn my scales on, it weighs 748 grams. Now, we weighed an Ultegra crankset with 5236 tooth chainrings and 172.5mm crankset at 749 grams, so about the same really. Now, another component that hasn't actually changed much is the cassette. The Force cassette still uses the mini cluster, which is where the 4 smallest cogs are machined out of a single block of steel. The remaining 8 cogs are pinned in place to save money over the beautiful SRAM red cassettes, which are fully machined from one piece of metal. The one bit of fun info here is that SRAM is making its oil slick cassettes available to buy. They are a red level component, so they will cost more, but if you want to upgrade your group set, then it is an option. So this 10 to 33 tooth cassette weighs in at 273 grams. Now, the Ultegra 11 to 34 tooth cassette weighed 340 grams, so a significant saving right here. Now, moving on to the brake calipers, and we now have a 2-piece design that was originally released in February of 2020. SRAM says that moving to this construction method allows for more accurate drilling of the piston bore holes. This should in turn lead to less brake rub following periods of prolonged heavy braking. This design was a rolling change, but all bikes with the new Force will have them installed. Now, the front weighs with a hose, that's very important, and there's fluid in it, 130 grams. The rear, even with the bolts from the bike and fluid and a hose, weighs 156 grams. Right, if I pop them on the scales, that is 286 grams. Ultegra brakes that we weighed were 240 grams for the pair, so slightly heavier, but then I guess we do have the little bolts there. Let's move on to the rotors. Nothing new here. We have a 160/160 Paceline set. They weigh 160 grams each, 320 grams for the pair. Now, the Ultegra rotors that we weighed were 108 grams each, so quite a bit heavier. But would you be looking to save weight at your brake rotors? Quite a crucial part. Let me know down in the comments below. So moving on now, and we come to the chain. SRAM sticks with its flat top chain design that we're actually very familiar with. It contributes to what is a very quiet group set, and ours weighs, so that's 242 grams right there. Ultegra chain that we weighed was 240 grams, so no real difference there. Right, we've also got the SRAM dub bottom bracket. This one has come out of Warren's Athos test rig, and luckily we've got it because the cranks, for that matter, are a bit of a job to get off. Anyway, this weighs 76 grams. So there we go. Now, I've totted up all of the numbers using a calculator because the old noggin isn't that good. We have 2,922 grams. Ultegra Di2 was 2,577 grams when we weighed it, but we didn't weigh with a bottom bracket on that one, and this one has the hoses and fluid in it. Regardless, SRAM Force AXS is a little bit heavier than Ultegra Di2, but would it make a difference to you? I want to know down in the comments below. And are you going to rush out and get this group set? Well, before you decide, why don't you check out this video, because it's where I give you the rundown on my first ride review.